Every so often, something appears in the sky that does not belong to any known category. It is not a plane, not a drone, not a natural phenomenon anyone can confidently name. It shows up on radar, is seen by trained observers, and then disappears without explanation. These are not rumors passed in the dark, but incidents quietly recorded during routine military operations. What makes these encounters unsettling is not what they might be, but how often they resist explanation. Advanced sensors detect them, experienced pilots witness them, official reports acknowledge them, and yet, no definitive conclusion has been reached. The data exists, but the answers do not. Tonight, we are not searching for proof or making claims. We are examining the moments when observation outran understanding, when something entered controlled airspace, behaved unexpectedly, and left behind only questions. What follows are documented cases that remain unexplained, and that uncertainty is where the mystery begins. Number 1. USS Nimitz Carrier Encounters. In 2004, U.S. Navy pilots attached to the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group reported encountering unidentified aerial objects while training off the coast of Southern California. According to witnesses, the objects were first detected by shipborne radar systems, which tracked targets descending rapidly from high altitude to near sea level. These detections prompted fighter pilots to visually investigate what radar operators could not identify. Pilots later described seeing a small, white object hovering above the ocean, moving erratically without visible wings or exhaust. Infrared sensors recorded portions of the encounter, capturing movement that appeared abrupt and difficult to reconcile with known aircraft performance. The significance of the event lies in the fact that it was documented through multiple independent systems, including radar, direct visual observation, and infrared imaging. Some researchers suggest the objects may have been experimental aircraft, sensor anomalies, or unusual atmospheric effects. However, these possibilities have not been officially confirmed, and none fully explain the combined sensor data. The U.S. Navy has acknowledged the encounters while stating that no definitive explanation has been reached. More than 2 decades later, the incident remains unexplained, continuing to raise questions about what was observed and how such events challenge existing detection and classification systems. Number 2. Roosevelt Carrier Group Incidents. Between 2014 and 2015, U.S. Navy pilots assigned to the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group reported repeated encounters with unidentified aerial objects while conducting training missions off the eastern coast of the United States. According to witnesses, these objects appeared frequently within restricted military airspace, sometimes remaining in the area for extended periods. The reports were taken seriously because the encounters involved trained aviators and modern aircraft operating under controlled conditions. Advanced radar systems aboard ships and aircraft reportedly tracked the objects, which were described as maintaining altitude, hovering, or accelerating in ways not typical of conventional aviation. Some pilots stated that the objects posed potential flight safety concerns, as they appeared unexpectedly during routine maneuvers. Despite multiple observations across different days, no visual identification was confirmed that could conclusively explain the sightings. Some researchers suggest the incidents may be linked to airborne clutter, sensor calibration issues, or unidentified drones operating near training zones. Others note that these explanations do not fully account for the persistence and consistency of the detections across multiple platforms. The U.S. Navy later acknowledged that the encounters were reported and investigated, but emphasized that no definitive conclusion has been reached. The events remain unexplained, raising questions about how such objects can repeatedly appear in monitored military airspace without clear identification. Number 3. Gimbal and Go-Fast Recordings. In 2015, U.S. Navy pilots operating in military training airspace over the Atlantic recorded 2 unidentified aerial objects using infrared targeting systems. The footage, later released publicly, became known as the Gimbal and Go-Fast recordings. According to official statements, the videos captured real objects, but their identity and origin were not determined. The recordings showed shapes and movement patterns that did not clearly align with conventional aircraft or known aerial phenomena. In the gimbal video, the object appeared to rotate while maintaining steady flight, a behavior that has not been officially explained. In the Go-Fast footage, the object seemed to move rapidly just above the ocean surface, though some researchers suggest its apparent speed may be influenced by camera angle, distance, and sensor limitations. These interpretations remain debated, and no single explanation has been accepted. The U.S. Navy confirmed the authenticity of the videos, but emphasized that they do not represent evidence of advanced technology or non-human origin. No definitive conclusion has been reached regarding what the sensors recorded. The recordings remain unexplained, raising questions about how often such data is collected and how much remains difficult to interpret, even with modern military systems. Number 4. RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge Incident. In December 1980, military personnel stationed near RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge reported unexplained lights and objects within a sensitive NATO training area in Suffolk, England. According to witnesses, glowing lights were seen descending into a nearby forest, prompting security teams to investigate on foot. Some described a structured object emitting intense light, though visibility was limited and conditions were unclear. Military logs later noted unusual activity, including reported ground impressions and elevated radiation readings, though the accuracy and interpretation of these measurements have been debated. Radar involvement was mentioned in later accounts, but no complete or publicly released radar data has confirmed the nature of what was detected. The observations were documented by trained personnel, which contributed to the incident's lasting attention. Some researchers suggest the events may have involved misidentified celestial objects, distant lighthouse beams, or equipment-related errors amplified by stress and darkness. Others argue these explanations do not fully account for the consistency of the reports. British defense officials acknowledged the incident, but stated that it posed no threat and was not conclusively identified. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the event remains unexplained, continuing to raise questions about perception, environment, and uncertainty in restricted military zones. Number 5. Minot Air Force Base Intrusions. In 1968, personnel stationed near Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota reported unidentified objects entering airspace associated with a highly secured military installation. According to military records and later summaries, radar operators detected unusual targets moving in patterns inconsistent with known aircraft. At the same time, security staff on the ground reported seeing bright, maneuvering lights near restricted zones. The incident attracted attention because the base was connected to strategic missile operations, an area normally subject to constant monitoring. According to witnesses, the objects appeared briefly, then vanished from radar without following standard flight paths. No alarms indicating system failure were publicly confirmed, suggesting the detections were taken seriously at the time. Some researchers suggest the intrusions may have involved atmospheric phenomena, distant aircraft reflections, or classified technology undergoing testing. However, none of these possibilities have been officially confirmed, and surviving documentation offers limited technical detail. Authorities acknowledge that reports were filed, but did not provide a definitive explanation. Decades later, the event remains largely unresolved. No clear identification was made, and no definitive conclusion has been reached, raising questions about how unexplained aerial activity can intersect with some of the most controlled airspace in the world. Number 6. Belgian Air Force UFO Wave. Between 1989 and 1990, a series of unusual aerial observations were reported across Belgium, involving both civilians and military personnel. According to witnesses, large triangular objects with bright lights were seen moving slowly and silently across the night sky. The frequency and consistency of these reports prompted the Belgian Air Force to formally investigate the phenomenon, rather than dismiss it as isolated misidentification. Military radar systems reportedly detected objects performing sudden accelerations and sharp directional changes that did not align with known aircraft behavior. Fighter jets were scrambled on multiple occasions, yet pilots were unable to achieve visual confirmation despite radar contact. Some researchers suggest the radar data may have been influenced by atmospheric anomalies or technical limitations, though these factors do not fully explain the coordinated visual sightings. Belgian authorities publicly acknowledged the events and released limited findings, emphasizing that the observations were real but unexplained. No hostile intent was reported, and no definitive origin was identified. Despite official investigation and transparency, no final explanation was reached. Decades later, the Belgian wave remains unexplained, raising questions about how such sustained and well-documented phenomena can occur without resolution. Number 7. USS Omaha UAP footage. In 2019, personnel aboard the USS Omaha reported an unidentified object detected during routine operations in the Pacific Ocean. According to publicly discussed military records, advanced sensor systems tracked an object moving through controlled airspace before it appeared to descend toward the ocean's surface. The event drew attention after infrared footage was later released, showing the object behaving in ways not easily categorized by conventional aviation standards. Operators described the object as lacking visible propulsion and exhibiting steady, controlled movement. According to witnesses involved in monitoring the systems, the object eventually vanished from sensors after reaching the water, with no debris or surface disturbance confirmed. The data was collected using modern naval equipment, reducing the likelihood of simple instrument malfunction, though that possibility has not been completely ruled out. Some researchers suggest the footage may depict a drone, airborne debris, or a sensor-related artifact influenced by distance and angle. Others note that these explanations do not fully address the recorded motion and disappearance. The U.S. Navy has acknowledged the video as authentic, while stating that no definitive conclusion has been reached. The incident remains unexplained, raising ongoing questions about what was observed and how such events should be interpreted. Number 8. Iranian Air Force intercept attempt. In September 1976, Iranian Air Force pilots reported an unusual encounter over Tehran when a bright, unidentified object was observed maneuvering in restricted airspace. According to witnesses on the ground and military personnel, the object appeared luminous and remained stationary before moving rapidly. 2 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept, marking the incident as a formal military response, rather than a civilian sighting. As one jet approached, the pilot reported that onboard instrumentation and communication systems began to fail. According to official reports later circulated internationally, the systems returned to normal once the aircraft withdrew. A second jet experienced similar issues when attempting closer contact. No weapons were deployed, and no visual identification was confirmed beyond the pilot's descriptions. Some researchers suggest the incident may have involved electronic interference, misidentified celestial objects, or rare atmospheric effects. However, these explanations have not been officially validated. The event was documented in formal military channels, yet no definitive conclusion has been reached. Decades later, the encounter remains unexplained, continuing to raise questions about how technology, perception, and unknown variables intersect during high-stress aerial events. Number 9. Chinese military radar anomalies. Chinese military radar operators reported a series of unexplained detections along the country's coastal regions in 2010, when unidentified objects were observed entering restricted airspace. According to official statements released at the time, the radar returns did not match known civilian or military aircraft profiles. As a precaution, nearby civilian air traffic was temporarily halted while the situation was assessed. No visual confirmation was publicly released, and the objects were tracked only through electronic systems. The reports drew attention because they came from controlled military radar networks, rather than isolated eyewitness accounts. Some researchers suggest the signals could have been caused by unusual atmospheric conditions, electronic interference, or experimental aircraft, yet none of these explanations have been officially confirmed. The limited transparency surrounding the data has made independent analysis difficult, leaving many details unclear. Chinese authorities emphasize only that the phenomenon was observed and managed according to protocol, without assigning a cause or origin. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and no follow-up explanation was provided. As with similar incidents worldwide, the event remains unexplained, raising questions about how often such anomalies occur and how many are quietly resolved without public attention.
Halt.
Across decades, continents, and political systems, these incidents share a common pattern. Something was observed, recorded, and taken seriously, yet never fully explained.
A pattern.
Radar tracked it. Pilots saw it. Sensors captured it. And still, no definitive conclusion has been reached. Each case exists not as proof of any single theory, but as a reminder of the limits of current understanding. Some researchers suggest technology we do not publicly recognize. Others point to rare atmospheric effects or complex sensor interactions. These explanations may resolve parts of the puzzle, but none account for every detail. What remains is uncertainty, carefully documented and officially acknowledged, but unresolved. The question is not what these phenomena are, but how often they occur beyond public awareness. As observation tools improve, so does our ability to notice anomalies that once went unseen. Whether future data will clarify these events or deepen the mystery remains unknown. For now, they remain unexplained, and that unanswered space continues to challenge what we think we know about the skies above us.